Hey guys, it's Chandler, and welcome to the Healing Heroes.
I promise you.
I'm Chandler Stroud, an executive, wife, and busy mom of two, who after years of living with anxiety, health struggles, and an unshakable feeling like I should be happier, made a profound discovery that changed everything. Join me on a journey where unexpected paths lead to healing and more happiness. On this show, we'll explore unconventional ways to unlock more joy in your own life with the help of my very own healers and trusted advisors, the Healing Heroes. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Healing Heroes podcast. I'm your host, Chandler, and today I am thrilled to have hero and confidence coach Cait DeMello back with us. We've covered so many topics together that I believe can truly overhaul how you interact with and see yourself in the world. And today's discussion is no different. We'll be talking about how the unmet needs of our youth show up in the present and drive our decision-making, our behaviors, and feelings of fulfillment and peace. We've gone deep on inner child and parts work, so this is a great bridge for listeners who may have felt those topics are a bit more out there or maybe out of your comfort zone, which I can promise you they truly are not. They have been so transformational for me personally, and I love talking about all things inner child for anyone who wants to have that conversation. But today's conversation centers around something called the hidden three, as Cait has coined them. 3 unmet needs that are behind our motivations. We may think that we're striving for money, career, relationships, but often we're unconsciously using those goals to meet these hidden 3 underlying emotional needs. Once I discovered what these 3 needs are, I felt so seen, and the concept resonated on a very deep level for me, given my past and personal experiences. If you're curious what these 3 desires are that are underlying your present day motivations, stick around because we're about to dive in with Hero Cait, and we promise to offer some tangible ways to unearth which need or needs are showing up most for you in your own life. First, let me quickly offer a refresher on Cait's background for anyone new joining us today. Cait DeMello is a confidence and empowerment coach who describes herself as an inner power activator on a mission to help women return home to the power that resides within. She is a master's in counseling and is certified in 20 plus coaching modalities, including inner child, parts work, and breath work. Cait, I am so excited to have you back here again. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, I'm so excited for this topic, and you know just how much I love the Healing Heroes and everything that you're putting out into the world. So thank you again for having me.
Anytime. I love our conversations together, as I've said 100 times before. And today, I'm thrilled to be talking about unmet needs and how they dictate the ways that we show up in adulthood. You specifically reference the hidden 3, which I love. These core needs that often drive us and our choices, many times subconsciously. What are the 3 big unmet needs, and why do they have so much power over our decision making?
You always ask the best questions. And so I'll first start with saying what the hidden 3 are. And I coined that term because they really run in the background. They're really our subconscious motivators. So they're hidden. We're not aware that that's what we're actually trying to get. And so they are security, approval, and control. And all 3 of them really tie back to just your safety when it, when it really comes down to it. So again, security, approval, and control. Those are the hidden 3. And they have so much power over our decision making because first of all, we're not aware of them. So they're kind of running the show behind the scenes like like a puppet or something like that. Why they really have so much power is because they're essentially embedded in our nervous system. Like our nervous system has been wired at some point in time to seek out those 3, and it has formed responses in order to get them. And so, I think in one of our previous conversations, and I think it'll be great to do a recap of the nervous system and how that kind of plays out. But your childhood experiences really form almost like what you're really looking for in life and how you view the world and how you interact with it and how you keep yourself safe. So, just real quickly, the nervous system, it has two settings, safe and unsafe. And when you're not feeling safe, when you're in the unsafe setting, you're going to seek out ways to get you safe. And what you're seeking out are those core motivators, the hidden three: security, approval, or control.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Since we've talked about them scientifically on the show before, can you just quickly break down what the parasympathetic state versus the sympathetic state means from a nervous system perspective?
So parasympathetic is your rest and digest. So that's when you are cool, calm, collected. And then your sympathetic is when you're in that fight, flight, freeze, fawn.
Super helpful, Cait. Thank you. Can you help me and our listeners understand how these three unmet needs, security, approval, and control, get wired into us early in life?
Yeah, absolutely. And as everybody's listening, and you too, Chandler, start just kind of like gently and with curiosity, just kind of noticing what kind of feels right for you, what kind of feels like, oh, maybe this applies to me. And again, you don't have to overattach or anything like that. This is just a deeper way of understanding yourself. And so, when we get to the end, I'll actually give you a free tool that you can use to figure out which one is your core motivator, because we tend to default to one of the three. We may use the other two to get the one, and we may, bounce in between, but we typically have one core main motivator of the hidden three. How this happens is when you're a kid and you have all of these different experiences, you're going out into the world, you're experiencing all sorts of different things. Your nervous system is kind of like just checking everything out. It's elastic, it's malleable, it's easily imprintable. And so what happens is when you have situations that override your nervous system and create big emotional responses that aren't met in a way that help you regulate through it, it will create an imprint in your nervous system. When you have a similar experience that draws out that inner response, you're going to respond in the way that got you what you needed. And so, everyone talks about the nervous system, but we don't talk about the limbic system, which holds the amygdala. And the amygdala is the fight, flight, freeze, fawn response system. So that the nervous system informs the amygdala, and the amygdala overrides the prefrontal cortex, which is our rational thought, which is our ability to have executive function and plan and think about things rationally and logically. And, so that's kind of how the system plays out together. So what happens is, as an adult, let me start with as a kid. So let's say as a kid, you have a parent or an adult in your life who maybe doesn't know how to handle your big emotions. And so they tell you to kind of quiet them down. And so all of a sudden you are left with, and it could be any of the three. I'm going to just give an example of approval. And you really want their approval. So instead of having your big emotions, you learn to shut them down and hide them and to not have big emotions. So now when you are in a high stakes environment, or if you're on the job, or, if you're in a relationship and you have something that makes you feel a big emotion, you feel like you have to hide it so that you can get the other person's approval. So in essence, you are enacting what you needed to do as a kid to get that approval as an adult in adult situations.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you for using that example. I think that brought it to life really well and makes it a lot easier to understand. What are, in your experience, some of the most common signs that one or all of the hidden three is running the show?
So anytime that your actions are out of alignment with almost like your truest, highest self. When we were talking about the parts work episode, we were talking about that sense of self, that capital S self. And, it's got the 7 C's, the calm, the curious, the confident, all of that stuff. So whenever you're taking action or you're inactive around in a way that is out of alignment with your truest self, you're really seeking out security, approval, or control. And so when you are For me, I'll give you an example in my life.
Yeah.
When I first started building my business and my face had to be on camera, right? And so anybody who has to put themselves out there that has a fear of putting themselves out there, it can be because you need to control your appearances. And so you need to control the outcome of what happens. So you need to like do it perfectly. It can be because you don't feel secure being on screen with your face out there, or it can be because you fear the rejection and you need the approval of the people that are watching. So for me, in my business, I was trying to build it and I was like trying to put all this stuff out there, and I was working with coaches and they were telling me, you got to be more personal. Like you've got to have your face out there. Cause I was just putting like the little captions or like the words and things like that on Instagram. And I would freeze and I wouldn't be able to talk on screen. Vastly different from right now. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't be able to go on screen. I would avoid Instagram. I wouldn't even be able to show up. And I was not following through on different opportunities that were coming my way. And it was because my core unmet need or my desire, my hidden three, was approval. And so approval was running the show. And there was a point in time also where my business ended up almost being my way of getting approval. And so I lost the joy in it. I lost the love for what I was doing. I lost sight of my mission. And so it was like my business wasn't moving and I felt stuck and I felt like that meant I wasn't getting approval. And so it was just like this inner battle. And so some of the archetypes that you might hear thrown around for approval are the good girl, the shapeshifter, the martyr, the performer. And so how that might show up is, you know, when you are on a first date and you hear that the person on the other side loves football. And so all of a sudden you love football, or, you know, you are in a job in your career and your boss is asking too much of you and you're constantly saying yes and taking things on, even though you can't handle them. And so you're allowing it to take time away from your family or the things that you want to do. And then, you know, I keep referencing relationships, career, and money because those are typically I call them the big three and the hidden three. The big three: money, career, relationships. That's what we think we're trying to get, when the reality is we're really trying to get these needs met. And so when it comes to money, if you're looking for approval, you may overspend. You may be the one that's buying the round of drinks for friends, even though maybe you can't really afford it. You know, or maybe you can, but you're constantly the one that's doing that. And so then when it comes to control, this comes up, and this is really the perfectionism, the micromanaging, the overthinking, the emotional shutdown, struggling to let go of things. When you are in the shower and you are rehashing a conversation and you're trying to like almost change the outcome of what already happened, that's control. That's your need for control, which I think is really interesting. So some of the archetypes that come with control are the fixer, the perfectionist, the strategist, the controller. And so for control, this can look like needing your partner to look, act, be a certain way and kind of controlling what they do. House management, making sure that the house looks a certain way. For money, it can be constantly checking your finances, knowing where every penny goes, needing to be right with what stocks that you use and things like that. And in career, this can be not being able to delegate and micromanaging and really taking control of different projects because you think you're the one that is going to do it right. So how do you know if it's showing up in your life? You're not doing the things that you say that you want to do. You're not showing up in the way that you say you want to show up. You're not being the person that you say that you want to be. And so, you know, this can look like procrastination. This can look like overwhelm. This can look like people pleasing. It's all the traits of everything that our listeners and that you're familiar with. It's the hypervigilance. It's the needing to overplan and pre-plan and have backup plans for the backup plans. And because that's control. You're trying to control the outcome. And so it's when you feel like you are acting in a way that is out of alignment with who you really truly feel like you are and desire to be, you're probably trying to get either security, approval, or control. Control is the response that you form when you haven't gotten approval or security in childhood.
Interesting.
So it's like a response factor that happens. So when you have that control, it's because you haven't received the other two.
I mean, me. And
I'm sure so many other people. Yeah. So are you hearing yourself in the control?
I mean, just for context for listeners, I mean, at my wedding, when my father gave a speech, he looked at me. I mean, my nickname from him was Generalissimo Chandler. So like this constant need for control really came through in everything that I did. And I think that was probably noticed not just by family, but anyone close to me. But it was sort of a family joke that I just needed control over everything. And so, yes, this resonates on a very, very deep level.
Right. And I'm hoping it does for everyone listening too, because I'm hoping what's happening is like, oh my gosh, I feel so seen, or I feel so heard. Oh my gosh, that is what's happening. And so what comes when you have this revelation, when you have this words for what's happening and why something is happening and what you're trying to get out of it, there's a little bit of relief and acknowledgement. And there's this understanding. The more understanding that you have, the less hate and judgment there can be. And so when you use that on yourself and you have more understanding for yourself, it's harder to hate yourself.
Cait, can you help me and our listeners understand how these three core unmet needs, security, approval, and control, get wired into us early in life?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's say you are a kid who has big emotions like yours truly, and you feel like your emotions are too big for other people. Maybe you have a caregiver that couldn't handle them. Maybe in school you had a teacher that told you to be quiet, and your nervous system started to associate that big emotion with not safe. And so now anytime you're in an experience as an adult where that emotion comes up, your nervous system is saying, oh, wait, that's my signal. This isn't safe. And so you will start to respond in the way that you did as a kid. Maybe you quieted yourself. Maybe you left the room. Maybe you started hiding parts of yourself. You start to show up as an adult the way that you learned to as a child.
Yeah, I totally agree. It absolutely supports more self-compassion. And I would give a plug here as I'm hearing you speak, because this came up in therapy with Hero Jen about how like my need for control. And she's told me a million times, like, you were just trying to get your needs met as a kid. But I will tell you, as a busy 40-something female, I heard that, but I didn't hear it. I didn't internalize it. I heard it and I was like, okay, but who cares? Like, why do I get my needs met? There are plenty of other people who have need more than I do. Like, I was lucky. Like, that's sort of how I brushed it off and interpreted. How I interpreted that, it actually wasn't until I went to acupuncture for an hour before one of our sessions together, and I got out of my mind and into my body, that she delivered that same message and it hit differently. And I finally was like, oh, yeah, I was just a kid trying to get my needs met. Like, I have so much empathy and compassion for knowing when kids are doing this. Like, why can't I have that for myself? And so I'm only plugging that for anyone who hears, like, you were just trying to get your needs met and maybe that doesn't resonate with you. I would encourage you to kind of noodle on it a little bit longer and maybe try a somatic practice before you really dive into some of these things, because getting out of my brain just helped me accept it in a very different way. So hopefully that's helpful to anyone listening who, hears this and maybe feels like, why do I matter? Why should I care about my needs before others? Because we so often fall victim to, caring for everyone else around us before we look to ourselves.
Well, and Chandler, what's so important about what you just said is it's your nervous system response. And so what you did was you calmed and regulated your nervous system and then represented it with the information. And so when you're in a more regulated state, you're able to actually take in the information that you need. But when you're in a dysregulated state, if you think about it like an animal who feels threatened, because the body doesn't know the difference between opening a difficult email and getting chased by a bear. The body doesn't know the difference. It just knows the response that you have to it, right? And so when you think about an animal who is threatened, okay, they're in response mode. Their pupils get dilated, so they're like honing in on whatever it is that they need to be aware of. They're not thinking about how to logic their way out of it. They are thinking about, what is the way that I can get out of this situation and survive? And that's what the body is doing. That's exactly what the body is doing. And so when you're in that overdrive, and what's so cool about, okay, so when you're in that overdrive, sometimes you don't even realize it's happening, right? So yeah. I'm going to give you a quick story about road rage and how it like literally changed my life. So I would drive to work, and it's like a 25-minute drive. And it was like, maybe I'd be running late. Maybe I just wanted to get there. It doesn't matter. But anytime I would get into that car, it was like I was gripping the wheel. Everybody was stopping too long at the stop signs, or maybe they were stopping too short. And it was just, everything was messing up my day. And so that's how I would like literally start my day for the longest time. So I would drive to work, and then I'd go through my day having started my day like that. And at the end of the day, I'd be like, why am I so exhausted? Why do I feel like I have no say in my life? Why do I feel like I have no control over anything? I'm not able to show up to the things that I want to show up to because I'm in this victim mindset. You know what I mean? And so when I started to recognize that that's how I was starting my day, and I started to shift how I was in the car. So I made a rule for myself: for the first 5 minutes of any drive, all I'm doing is regulating. All I'm doing is breathing. All I'm doing is just being. No music, no nothing. And I'm practicing letting go. So now, like, somebody stops at the stop sign and they take too long, I let it go. And I practice that in my body. So how this relates is that was normal to me. Getting in the car, driving, being pissed off at everybody, that was normal to me. That wasn't something that I was like, oh my God, I really got to fix this. Like, no, I get in the car and I get annoyed at everyone. So it's like the things that you do during the day that you're not even realizing that you're dysregulated in. You sit down and you go to open your emails as the first thing that you do for work, and you're dreading it. You're dysregulating yourself because you're staying in that dread and you're going through your emails. And so it shows up in the things that we don't even realize. And the things that we do on a day-to-day basis. If you are, I love talking about the mornings because mornings will change your life. If you take the smallest little thing and realize where you're getting dysregulated and how. And so for me, the road rage, the reason that I was getting so upset in the car is because I was so afraid of not being approved of by being late. Some people need to control the drive, and they need that control piece. Some people don't feel safe. So you got to kind of know, where is this coming from? But the reason that I like talking about mornings so much is it is the easiest, simplest, I call it zero effort tweak that you can make. So if you rush through brushing your teeth, if you never stop to actually taste your first sip of coffee, if you have to walk a dog like I do and you're tugging them on the leash, being like, let's go, we got to go, you're dysregulated. And that is the easiest thing to regulate. It's the easiest thing. You brush your teeth. Okay, I'm noticing that I'm rushing. I'm going to slow down. I'm noticing that I'm telling myself, I gotta rush through this. I'm going to let myself be right here. And it's something you're already doing, which is why it's zero effort, because you're just shifting how you do it. So that's why I love talking about that. But what happens is, and the reason I'm getting so passionate about this is because it's like we go through our days and we don't even things that feel normal to us are not normal.
Yeah. Yeah. I 1,000% agree. And that's why I love what you're saying, because we often say that like a lot of the dysregulation and inadequacy and self-worth are subconscious. Like a lot of women don't know how it should feel, which is why I love that you're presenting it this way, because I think most women are probably aggressively brushing their teeth and taking a quick sip of coffee and running to get their kids out the door to school or camp or whatever. I mean, even I find myself falling victim to that. Even this morning, though this morning, my daughter didn't fall asleep till like 10:30 last night. And I said, you know what? So what if she's late for camp? I'm going to let her sleep and I'm going to have a breakfast and not rush through it. And if we're late, we're late. It's not the end of the world. And I did immediately feel everything just inside me sort of exhale and drop. Like my shoulders dropped a little bit, my chest expanded, and I was like, there it is. That's what I was looking for. And then there were moments where I was like, no, we're really late. Now we really have to go. And then I'm like, nope, we said we weren't going to do this. Like, it takes training. It's hard. It's hard.
It does. And like, we're in our early 30s. Just kidding. We're in our later 30s. So we've had that amount of years and time and training to get our thoughts to formulate the way that they did in order to keep us safe. So this isn't just like now I know that I'm getting approval, I'm cured. This is now I get to recognize when that comes up. And so for you, and I love your examples because they're just so real. For you, that the way that you're presenting that can be control, where it's like, oh my gosh, I need to control everything because then that's how I feel safe. For someone else, it might be, okay, I need everything to happen as it needs to happen so that I can feel secure in myself. Like I need to make sure that things go to plan so that I can feel secure. So tiny difference. But then there are other people who are like, okay, I need everything to go to plan because then I won't get in trouble and then I'll get the approval that I need. And so you can kind of see how it's like everybody is at any given time just looking for security, approval, or control. And like how incredible when you start to understand that in yourself, maybe you can start to see it in others. Maybe you can start to recognize like, oh man, they're really struggling with needing control right now. How do I regulate myself around them and not let their need for control affect my need for approval? Imagine like a really micromanaging boss who has someone that they manage that has an approval wound. And so they're micromanaging out of their need for control. But the approval person is so afraid of doing anything wrong because they really want that person's approval. And more often than not, that'll represent the person with approval's relationship with their adult, especially if it's that hierarchy, right? And vice versa. And then we think it's about ourselves. So me with approval, I think it's about me when the person's micromanaging, like, oh my God, I'm not doing it right. How do I make this better? How do I get them to like me? You know what I mean? I think it's about me. It's not about me. It's about their need for control. And what I'm responding to it is about my need for approval. So you can start to like separate yourself from taking on somebody else's stuff.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. But Cait, what are women really looking for when they're trying to appease their need for security, approval, or control? Like, what is it that they are really trying to get?
Such a good question. When it comes to security, what someone who has that subconscious motivator, what they're really looking for is a sense of inner safety. They're looking for permission to trust life and themselves without needing the guarantee. So for someone with security, let go and let God, that might be a really hard concept for them. Self-trust is a really difficult thing for them because they never really truly were able to feel safe and secure within themselves. So when it comes to approval, what they're really looking for is to be seen, to be chosen, to belong, to be loved as they are. And they want to know that they're enough without needing to earn it. And so they enact that by trying to get that outside of themselves. Same with security. And then for control, what they're really looking for is to feel safe in the unknown. And to trust, again, it's that trust piece, but to trust themselves and life enough to surrender and not collapse. And so, each of these are actually looking for something. They're just looking for it outside of themselves. And so why it's so important to know which one is your kind of core motivator is because when you notice what you're looking for outside of yourself, you can notice what you need to provide for yourself.
That's, very powerful and probably at the root of inner child and parts work and a lot of the other stuff we've talked about.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard for me because I feel like all three have equal influence over how I'm showing up. It's hard to believe one would be more powerful than the other two. And I have to say, just listening and knowing so many women and kind of how they talk about what they've gone through and what they grapple with today, I feel like most women I know also are challenged with all three.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. And again, like, I will try to control certain situations in order, like my road rage, that is control in and of itself. It is, but it's control so that I can get approval because of my fear of disapproval from my boss is so great that I feel like I need to control the circumstances. So you're absolutely right. And you're fully grasping this. We do vacillate from thing to thing. It's what is the root? What is the root that's driving it? What's the unconscious motivator that's enacting our actions?
Got it. Okay. That's really helpful. And I think, you know, as women are listening, so many of our listeners are smart, capable, and very self-aware, but they still find themselves stuck in a lot of the examples probably that you gave earlier. Why does understanding these needs help move the needle where maybe other mindset work or other work they've tried have not?
Well, let me ask you this, Chandler, if you weren't able to give yourself permission to be late for camp, what would typically be going on in your mind?
Ooh, good question. Probably I'm going to be late. I can't be late because then I'm inconveniencing the staff at the camp and they're going to think that I can't get my shit together and I don't want to be bad. I don't want to be bad. I want to do what I'm supposed to do. Like, that's what drives me. I'm supposed to be good.
Okay. And so what happens within you when I tell you, hey, Chandler, that's just your need for control. That's just you looking to be able to control the circumstances.
I feel like I'm at fault for needing control.
And what if I told you that that was your way of protecting yourself?
Then that wall starts to crack and I start to have a little bit more compassion for little me who I have, you know, a lot of heart for and understand why she would need to protect herself.
And that's at the root of it. And I'm actually really glad that I asked it the way that I did and didn't say it was actually a mistake, and I didn't immediately say that the control is your protection. Because I think what happened to you, and I think what is going to happen to a lot of listeners with control in particular, is there's going to be a negative response. Because control sounds like a bad thing.
Yes.
And control can sound like manipulation, and that's not what this is. You know, sometimes it can show up that way, but so can people pleasing, so can approval, so can security, so can everything. So I do want to say, like, to the women that are listening and who, again, and I have 2 sisters with 5 kids between them. The women are the head of the household. Take everything on, and without you, things do fall apart. And so, you know, I think like there is a negative connotation to the word control, and yet there is an element that women tend to have to take on. And so I just really want to presence that too and say, this isn't about you controlling everyone around you. It's not about you manipulating. It's about you trying to maintain control so that you feel safe, so that you don't fall into the unknown and lose yourself. The reason it's so important to understand this about yourself is exactly what happened when I said this is your protection mechanism. The walls go down. You're able to receive it. You're able to see it in a different way. You don't keep beating yourself up like, I don't have my shit together. They're going to judge me. They're going to be mad at me for not getting my daughter there on time, you know. You get to let go of that at least a little bit.
Yeah.
Recognize what it is that's happening. You're not doing this to someone. You're not doing this to ruin someone else's life. You're doing this to stay safe.
Yeah.
So when you start to recognize, okay, wait a minute, I'm doing this to stay safe. Well, I am safe. I'm not getting chased by a bear. I'm not opening an email that's, you know, going to be a Harry Potter howler. Right. And even if I were, like, I can handle it. You know what I mean? And so you start to recognize where your body is saying unsafe and I can't handle this. And you can say, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I can. I can handle this. It is okay. And so that's why it's just so important to start to learn yourself and to learn your responses.
Well, that I absolutely agree. I mean, mic drop. Getting curious about yourself and knowing yourself on a deeper level is so core to this show and everything we talk about. So I love that we're really peeling back the onion on this and going deep, because I think it's really helpful. And hopefully the examples we're giving are bringing it to life for women as well. How can someone begin to identify which of the three is their primary driver?
So I actually have, we will, in the show notes, I will link a free resource that I have. It's a quiz and a workbook. So it'll go through a series of questions asking you about different types of responses that you may have to situations, and it'll help you really identify that. And again, it's okay if you have more than one or identify with more than one. You just want to start being able to recognize how they show up. So we'll link that in the show notes. And it also comes with some nervous system regulation practices specific to security, approval, and control.
Love that.
So that's one way. Another way is first just starting to become aware of your actions. How are you showing up? What are the things that you keep shaming yourself about? You know, the ones that you're actually aware of. So again, for me, the road rage thing, I used to say all the time, like, I just don't think that I'm here to heal my road rage. Like, I just don't think that that is what I'm here to do in this lifetime. I just thought it was like how it was going to be. But I also was like, but why do I have to be this way? You know what I mean? So, just really starting with the things that are at the forefront of your mind, starting with the things that you're aware of. Like, is there a business that you want to start and you haven't done anything to get started? Is there, like, are you entering into the dating arena and you just can't even get yourself to, like, start looking? Are you looking to switch jobs and you just can't even get yourself to write down, like, update your resume? Just start thinking about the things that you're either doing or not doing that are contributing to where you currently are, especially if, again, the big three, if you want to enhance or call in a relationship, if you want to change careers, build a business, whatever it is, if you want to enhance your financial standings, whatever it is that you have as a goal for yourself, take a look at the way that you're showing up to those things, the actions you're taking and the inaction that's happening, and really just start to work backwards. What might I be looking for here? How is this showing up? What does it sound like? Like, in my head, what does it sound like? So for me, the road rage, how I figured out that it was approval is I kept being like, well, why am I so upset? Like, why do I need to control this? What's really going on? And I was gentle with myself. And I started to recognize, oh, it's because I'm afraid of getting in trouble. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. At the end of the day, that's my road rage. I'm afraid of getting in trouble. When I was a kid, God, if we were ever late for anything, my dad would go off. You know what I mean? And so I'm now a driver and I'm in control of the car. So I better frickin' get there because my body didn't know the difference between being late as a kid and being late as an adult. And so you start to just kind of like explore. You start, be an architect with your body, be a scientist, be curious, and just start to recognize. And so what's actually really, really cool about this is the neural pathways that are and the nervous system response that are creating the responses are the same in that road rage incident or incidents as they are in my past, right? But when you really think about what is happening, everybody's in my way, they're stopping me from getting there, I need things to be a certain way, I need to be there instead of here. Doesn't that sound like what happens when you are trying to reach a goal or call something in with, like, manifestation and the things that get in the way? Like, I need to be there instead of here. I need to have the business. I need to have the relationship. I need to have X amount of money, right? It's the same thing that's happening when you're trying to call something in. And so when you work in these low stakes, no effort situations, they're the same neural pathways because they're fed by the same belief. They're fed by the same subconscious motivator. Or you'll see these in the workbook the quiz and the workbook. but really finding the mantra that works for you in those situations and pairing them with nervous system work. So for security, it's really like, I am safe. I'm safe to trust myself. I am safe to be with myself. Like really just kind of reiterating, I am safe. And if I am safe doesn't resonate, it is safe to feel this. It is safe to feel this. Really like practicing making yourself feel safe. So you can pair that with like hand on heart, hand on belly is always a physical signal to the vagus nerve that runs, that is the central nerve of your nervous system. So that is just a signal to that nerve that you're safe. So any mantra that you pair with that and with like deep, even breathing. So that would be for security. For approval, I approve of myself. I have the final say. I love myself. I give myself permission. You know, whatever it is that you feel like you're struggling with in the moment, it's bringing it back to you being the deciding factor. And then control. It's safe to not know. It's safe to not know. What am I in control of? I'm in control of who I am. I am in control of how I feel. I'm not in control of what other people think. I'm not in control of, it's that locus of control. And so really giving yourself permission to let go and really training yourself in the moment of needing to rush around the house, get all of the kids ready, get out of the house. Like, okay, hold on a second. While I'm brushing my teeth, I'm just gonna be like, okay, I'm here brushing my teeth. I don't need to be anywhere else. I don't need to be wrangling the kids. I don't need to be on time. I don't need anything. And so it's really like working within those three. And that's how you start providing it to yourself in the moment.
Got it. Okay. Thank you for offering that. I think that's going to be really helpful for our listeners. If a listener remembers only one thing from this conversation, what do you hope it is?
If a listener remembers only one thing from this conversation, I hope it's that there's nothing wrong with you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are built to protect yourself. You are built to survive. That's how all of your systems are wired, for survival. So everything that you are doing is for your survival because that's how you learned to survive. There's nothing at all wrong with you. You can change it if you want to and if you need to and if it's no longer helpful. And there's nothing wrong with you.
Beautifully said. Cosign. Can you offer a simple practice or question that they can sit with this week to begin uncovering which hidden 3 need is running their show?
Yes. And not to go back to the workbook, but in that I actually have 3 journal questions for each of them, for each of the hidden 3. But what I would say, if you just want one for everyone to walk away with, it's what do I actually need? Or what am I trying to get here? What am I trying to get? And really like, am I trying to get approval? Am I trying to get security? Am I trying to get control? What am I trying to get on the other side of this?
Love that. Very straightforward and simple. Thanks for that, Cait. I think that's really helpful for listeners. Cait, how do we know if we're choosing something because we genuinely want it or because it meets a subconscious survival need?
If you are feeling stuck, frustrated, the urgency of needing to be there instead of here, if things aren't coming in the way that you want them to, if you're feeling blocked, any of that stuff, that's your signal that there's an underlying, that one of the hidden 3 is active. That doesn't necessarily mean that you want it for the wrong reasons. It means you're using it to get that.
Okay.
So for me in my business, I want it because I know it's my calling. Like, being that confidence chick, being a coach, that's my calling. But I was using that in order to get approval. Mm-hmm. So once I met my need for approval, being that confidence chick came so much easier. So when things feel difficult, when things feel blocked, when things feel stuck and heavy and frustrating and urgent, that's when you're trying to get your need met instead of being in flow, being in alignment.
Got it. Okay. That is very clear. And I think a very good way for our listeners to distinguish when something else might be at play underneath. Cait, this was incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this. I learned a lot, as I always do, and just thank you for being here.
Absolutely. I always love having these conversations with you, Chandler.
Well, the feeling is mutual. And to those tuning in, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please share it with friends and don't forget to subscribe. You can also visit healingheroespodcast.com to get resources, meet the heroes, and share your ideas for future episodes. Thanks for listening, everyone. And until next time, remember, be curious, be courageous, and be kind to yourself. You've got this.